أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. Today we are starting the second lesson in our series on Tazkiyah. Last time we took a brief introduction to what Tazkiyah is, and this time we will be talking about some general principles regarding the specific issue we are talking about in this series. Like I told you, we will be talking about specifically the negative characteristics which can harm our personalities and distance us from Allah, and which can cause a lot of harm to our societies as well. Now, first of all, when we do Tazkiyah, if you remember last time in the introduction, the end product of the process was taqwa, which was described in the hadith by the fact that we become careful in all our actions, and the words used in the hadith were that, I become his hands with which he walks, his hands with which he works, his feet with which he walks, his eyes with which he sees, and so on. Now, the word taqwa is derived from waqaya, which is an Arabic root which means to be careful, to be aware, to be wary of, and to be afraid of having a bad end or a bad result, and trying to avoid it. And so literally it is to be wary and to be careful. In the context of Islam and in the context of the Quran and the Ahadith, to have taqwa with Allah means to first of all be hopeful of His mercy, to love Him, and to be fearful of His anger. So it is to have an awareness of Allah in your heart, and to love Him, and to try to make sure that we do not do anything that will make Him angry. So like if you love Allah, obviously you don't want Him to be angry, because that is that will not be good for you. Now, so in very simple words, taqwa is to live with awareness, to live with an awareness that of the presence of Allah, and to try our best to live in a way that is pleasing to Him and that is beneficial for us and our society. Okay, now when we try to live this way, we need to know that there are some things that can, hinder our progress, that can cause us problems on this path, and these are what we shall be calling the spiritual diseases. Now, at a very basic level, these diseases are, you can say, characteristic traits, they are habits, they are desires, and in themselves, they are not evil. It is their misuse or their going out beyond the limits set by Allah that is harmful, and that is not good for us, and that is, we can say, negative. So take the example of hunger, for instance. It makes sure that you do not starve, that you do not get weak, but if you do not control it, if it goes out of the limits, then it is harmful for your body, it is harmful for society, and it can take you away from Allah. And it is the same with all such desires and all such habits and character traits, that as long as they stay within the limits, there is nothing wrong with them, but if they cross the limits, then they can become very harmful. And this is why, so we can say, and the way to deal with them, with this, is to first of all not let them go out of control. Second, you do not suppress them. So these are two extremes. You can either suppress them and live like a monk, or you can let them just loose and be controlled by them, and both of these are wrong. We need to live in a balance. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said that none of you truly believes until his desires are in accordance with that which I have brought. Meaning that you need until your desires are in accordance with the Islamic principles. Now, if you're going to deal with these diseases, now of course we're going to deal with specific diseases. Starting from the next lesson, we're going to talk about one disease, it's cured, then another issue, then it's cured, then another one. But there are some general principles which you can say are common among the cure of all diseases. And today we're going to discuss these common cures, and then we're going to build upon them by mentioning the specific cures related to different diseases. So first of all, we need to keep good company, because we are influenced by those around us, and if we are in the company of people who are trying their best to be as good as they can be, of course no one's perfect, but who are trying to be as good as they can be, it can be a source of inspiration, it can be a source of learning, it can be you can say a means of support, and we can also get some, let's say, constructive criticism from them. Like we can ask them, tell me when I make a mistake, and later on they can tell you made a mistake over here. Secondly, we need to guard our actions and our speech, because when we do something that is good, it cleans us from the inside, and when we do something that is, let's say, not that crosses the limits that have been set by Allah, that causes our hearts to rust. And this has been mentioned in a couple of ahadith. Like there's a hadith in Sahih Muslim that temptations will be presented to men's heart as a reed mat is woven stick by stick, and any heart which is impregnated by them will have a black mark put into it, but any heart which rejects them will have a white mark put into it. The result is that there will become two types of hearts, one white like a white stone, which will not be harmed by any turmoil or temptation, so long as the heavens and the earth endure, and the other black and dust colored like a vessel which is upset, not recognizing what is good or rejecting what is abominable, but being impregnated with desire. Now, there are similar hadith in Ibn Majah and in Tirmidhi, and the basic thing is that try to be as good as you can, and that will help us, and it will make our hearts purer. And just try your best. Like, of course we're not perfect, but as long as we try our best, it will help us and it will purify our hearts. Thirdly, it is suggested that we could take some time to ponder over the Quran and the Ahadith every day, and during that time we could also look at ourselves, reflect upon ourselves, like how are we doing, and that can also help us quite a lot. Fourthly, we need to try our best to make sure that we are fulfilling the rights of others, and we are fulfilling our responsibilities. Like we cannot just ask for our own rights, we also need to make sure that we are fulfilling the rights of others, because this is, let's say, it creates a network. Like until that the rights of one person are the responsibilities of another, so we need to know that we have responsibilities, and if we do not fulfill those responsibilities, then no matter how much we try, society will not get better, and we will not get better. So we need to make sure that we are fulfilling our own responsibilities first, and also we should try to do some actions that are beyond the self as well, like help others, try to bring to them the teachings of Allah, or just help them generally, give sadaqah or like that. Actions that go beyond just the self, right? That is also very helpful for the heart. And of course we must try to live within the limits of Allah. We've already discussed that. And finally, we can get some basic amount of knowledge, at least a basic amount of Islamic knowledge, that what we are supposed to do, how we are supposed to live. It's not, you don't really need to study that much detail if you don't want to. If you don't want to become a scholar, that's your choice, but at least have some basic knowledge. And we can do some voluntary acts, because that will remind us constantly of Allah, and it will strengthen the awareness, or let's say the taqwa in our hearts. And finally, we can try to deal with the specific diseases, which we will talk about in the upcoming lessons. And some tips that are given by scholars on how to recognize what diseases you have or what issues you have include three main things. They say, first of all, if you stay in good company, that can help you, for you will be able to see, that what they do, and you can compare it with yourself, or they can advise you on different things, and you can help each other, like when people work together, they can help each other, and that is a great means of doing better. Second, that you can ask your friends to give some friendly advice, or you could do some self-analysis, or friends could analyze each other to see what are the problems with each other. And finally, they say that if there is someone who does not like you, you can find out what they say about you, because it is that way you may be able to find out what problems you have yourself. So those are some, let's say, general tips on how we can deal with these issues. Starting next time, we're going to be talking about specific diseases. So we'll discuss one disease, what is it, what are its causes, what are its effects, and how we can deal with that. And in this way, we shall deal with all of these diseases, inshallah ta'ala. وصلى الله على خير خلقه سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين.